into landscape mode rather than portrait. There we go. Let me get everything ready. So hello again, this is the second of our bank holiday live streams. I'm just still messing with the camera. There we go. Right, lovely. And today we are going to be looking at getting our base coats done effectively. So we saw in the first one on Saturday that I was doing the British. So what I did is, well, sorry, I'll start off with the French. So I used the apothecary white on all the straps. So as you can see, I've got some on the coat, but it doesn't really matter. I did all the trousers there as well. These are all going to be French line. And then I've also spent the rest of the weekend, when I've had chance, painting the trousers of the Brit Agrax. No, not Agrax shade. I've been painting them Corax white, sorry. So they're going to be ready for a wash as well. I've also been doing the shakos, the heads, and the backpacks as well. So the reason I've done that, I've also done the muskets. Now, the reason I've done that is I wanted to show a technique today that I use that really helps increase the speed that I paint in, whilst keeping it a little bit fresh. Let's be honest, batch painting is never going to be exciting. There's not really much you can do to make it more exciting. That sound you can hear there, it sounds a bit dodgy, is me shaking up the paint that we're going to use today. And basically what it is it's painting by colours rather than painting by figures. So in this set, you get quite a good mix of British, French, Hanoverians, so rather than say, right, I'm going to do all the Brits, I'm going to do all the French, and having them in those blocks, what I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to do them in colours. So we're going to start off today with the weird noise I've been making, and that's this. Oh, hang on, let me just mute myself. And that's the contrast Basilicanum Grey. I'm going to use this for the trousers, and I'm going to use it for the greatcoats as well. One chance is to make a fine break to writing about English Civil War sieges for my degree. I've just been doing a lot about Napoleonic sieges, actually. I've been writing a lot about Ciudad Rodrigo, Badajoz, and Burgos, because I'm rattling through the next part of the Brunswickers, and they're in the Peninsular War at the moment, and there's a lot of sieges going on there. Andreas Pearson, you made it. Nice to see you, buddy. I hope you enjoy it. So I've shaken up the grey. Now, one of the things with the contrast paint is you need to shake it. So you can see there's a little bit of white there. Let me get that in the middle of the screen. A little bit of white there. So you're supposed to shake it so that's all gone. Now, when I started shaking it, it was completely separated. So I should probably give it a bit more of a shake. There you go. That white's now gone. So we are good to go. Now, I'm not going to do all the greatcoats with this, but I'm going to do the vast majority of them, and I'm going to do all the trousers as well. So let's get this. I'm using quite a large brush here. Now, this is just a cheap Humbrol brush, but it's got quite a lot of bristles. It's going to be able to accept quite a lot of paint, so it should hopefully speed up the process. If it doesn't work quite as fast as I'd like it to, I do have another brush as a backup that's even bigger. In fact, I'll use that brush to do these bits here. I'll use the slightly smaller brush to do the trousers. You'll see also I've re-undercoated the bread bags as well, so we're going to use a contrast on those. They're just an undyed linen colour, so I'm actually going to use bone on them. That's what I use for all my wool, like unbleached wool. I think General Dan might use that for his Austrians as well. I know he does off-white Austrians, whereas I do the classic white ones. His look a lot better than mine, I have to say. But I have painted far too many of them to go back and change it now, I think. Unless I can find a wash that makes them off-white, then they're staying the classic white. Hello, well hung in dung. Now I'm being slightly careful with this. Not as neat as I'm going to need to be later, because I am at the top of the legs. I don't want to get it on the bread bag or the bottom of the jackets if I can help it. But if I get it on the shoes, it's not the end of the world. because I'm going to be painting those black. They've got gaiters on. I'm going to be doing those black as well. I'm not entirely sure what colour British gaiters were, to be honest, but mine are going to be black. So it's worth remembering as well that these are probably not going to end up as British infantry. These are probably going to end up as the Hanoverians, because although it's a British infantry sprue, I'm wanting to use some of them as my 1812 Americans. So I'm going to be swapping in the heads from the Hanoverian sprue for some of those. So let's get that there. So has anyone had a good bank holiday weekend? I've not really been doing much. I've been re-undercoating these mostly. So I did watch a film that I talked about in my advent calendar at Christmas, though, which was the I can never remember the name of it. It's the Russian Guard one about the Decembrist revolt in 1825. It's got a weird name. It's the name of the group that of officers that decided they were going to try and overthrow the current system. It was good. There wasn't much Napoleonic Warring in it. I was hoping that there would be. But there were certainly lots of characters who you will know from the Napoleonic Wars. And the uniforms were absolutely spectacular. Also, the what's called the mise en scène, the things that make up the scene, were very nice as well. The locations, camera work, stuff like that. So yeah, no, it was very good. Highly recommended. I actually found it on YouTube. They had the full film with English subtitles, which I'm sure is not entirely legal, but I quickly watched it while I could, and it was very good. Highly recommended. So again, I've been fairly rough. I'm trying to make sure that I cover all parts. Now it's quite dark, this grey actually. It's a little bit darker than I anticipated. So I would probably go for a lighter grey if I was doing it again. But here we are. I'm now 3 figures in, and it's too late to go back now. This is why people do test figures. I appreciate that. But you know what? It'll do. And most of my British, despite being Peninsular War, have grey trousers. And that's because it was easier to paint grey trousers than it was white ones. So I gave them all grey trousers, except my battalion of Guard. They're the Perry ones, the rest of them are Victrix. And now the contrast paints are out. It's quite the opposite. White is a lot easier to paint than grey now. That's a bit of a shame, but it serves you right, doesn't it? I can't even go back, and if it was the other way around, if it was, oh yeah, they should all have grey trousers, really, then that'd be easy. I just paint straight over the white. But I'm not doing them all again, that's for sure. So there we go, just a couple of bits I've missed. Where are we? Just get a different angle. Sorry, I know this is going to absolutely destroy the autofocus. Union of Salvation. Thank you, Ian. That's exactly what it was called. Yes, thank you. I knew it had a weird title. But yes, no, it was good. Like I say, check it out on YouTube. If you can. You'll see, you'll get a load of trailers for it up. So it's worth watching the trailer to see if you think you'll enjoy it. But I very much did. There's no battling in it, really. I don't want to give too much away about the Decembrist revolt. But there's no sort of Napoleonic battling in it. But it's worth it just for the sumptuous uniforms. And it's a good film, actually. Yeah, no, I did enjoy it. Pretty brutal. There's a well, I said I didn't want to give you any spoilers. There is some battling in it, and it gives you an indication of how brutal Napoleonic battles must have been. Congrats on your post. I'm finding them very helpful for getting into naps. Thank you. Well, thank you, Solvent Abuse UK. Good. I'm glad. That's not really much I can say about that. But no, thank you. Yeah, I'm glad you're enjoying them. I hope you guys enjoyed the Start Collecting Italians one. I'm a bit disappointed that I didn't have. I didn't have any Italians, and I didn't really have the space available at the time to bust all my French out to give an example of what they would look like. But if I get a chance, I might get a picture of them and put them up on the Facebook page, just to give you an example of what that Italian army would look like. But the thing that surprised me, all right, yeah, we're using units of 24, so that's significantly less than the 36. But just the sheer number of units that you could get for 200 quid. I mean, I've been dipping my toes back into Warhammer again. In fact, I'm soon going to be appearing on a Warhammer YouTube channel. But just the prices for that, they're absolutely just unbelievable. I mean, I know everyone complains about Games Workshop prices, and it gets kind of old. But yeah, lordy lord, when you compare what you can get for historicals, it really is something. Memes and strategy, hello. Morning, Damjan. G'day there. Look like more contrast paints. I should really try them. I really do struggle painting black on light undercoat. Yeah, you can do. You really do need to give them a super shake. Let me show you something I've got up here with the black over the white. Hang on. This is the problem. This is why I never get anything done, because I always get distracted. But that's fine. That's what we're here for. So these guys are some chasseurs that I've been working on. I've just noticed as well, I've missed a massive bit under his Shako peak there. Never mind. In fact, I'll dab a little bit of grey on there. Hopefully no one will notice. Don't tell anyone who's watching this. There we go. So this horse, that is Black Templar over Corax White Spray. Yeah, Corax White Spray. That's just Black Templar straight over it. The Shako as well, that's also Corax Black. Now let me get, sorry, Templar Black over Corax White. Let me try and get the camera to focus in. There you go. Now you can see that there's some shading on that Shako there. That's what I really like about the Black Templar. It's obviously a bit more obvious on the horse. You can really get in the shading there. There's a couple of bits I've missed on his bridle. I'm going to go over those with just Abaddon Black and paint those so they contrast against the black of the horse. But that's just straight over the Corax White. My suggestion would be make sure that you're shaking them properly. Make sure that there's none of that white stuff at the bottom of the pot that I was showing you earlier on. As soon as you don't see that there's any more there, shake it a little bit. Shake it a little bit more. I don't think it can be too shaken up, and go from there. And I think the other thing with the contrast paints as well is don't be stingy with them. Now I know it's sort of counterintuitive because you want to try and get the most out of your paints that you can, but you'll end up finding if you use less, you end up using a bit more, because you'll just have to go and put a second coat on, and you won't get you won't get the effects that you're after. You won't get those really nice highlights and lowlights, and you just use twice as much paint. So I treat the contrast very much like washers. You know, it's like bang them through, get them out, and take it from there. Now this guy here, I'm not going to paint his greatcoat grey. I'm going to leave him white for now, because I'm going to do him with either blue or brown, a greatcoat. Now I do like to mix them up a little bit. It just provides a bit of variation in the unit. Blue would probably be reserved for guard units. So what I tend to do is I often have, so there's 6 figures in each company, because I have battalions of 36. So I'll have 3 in grey, and then for the light company I usually have 2 in brown coats and 1 in blue, and then for the grenadiers I often swap that round, so I'll have 2 in blue and 1 in brown, just to mark them out as being that little bit more elite. And then the line companies I'll have, again, maybe 1 of each colour per company, so I'll have 4 greys, 1 blue and 1 brown. I'm sure, again, unbleached wool, I'm sure they would have made great coats out of that. And that there, I've gone over the strap, so I'm going to have to go over that with some white afterwards. But that's okay, you know, it's only a little part. You're always going to have to do some touching up. I've also gone over the bottom of his trousers as well on that guy. So I'm going to have to touch this guy up quite a bit when we're done. Whether I actually do or not, it's a different matter. But I certainly should do. So we get down here. Have I ever played Holdfast? No, I haven't. I had a lot of people talking to me about Holdfast. Apparently the Italians came out for it yesterday. I don't even know what it is, if I'm honest. But people were like, well, you know, that's a coincidence. Italians come out on Holdfast, and then you bring this video out of it. I'm like, I don't even know what it is. But what actually is it? If someone can explain it to me, that would be awesome. I might, I'll probably check it out. But no, I only found out this morning that it was even a thing. So again, just knock the camera with a paintbrush there, very professional. You don't come to this channel for professionalism, do you? Let's be honest. If you do, you're going to be continually disappointed. There we go. Yeah, no, I'm looking good so far, looking sharp. So Martin from Plastic Crack Podcast, Seventh Son on YouTube, was pretty positive about getting you on the podcast. Oh, right, okay. Would that be something you're interested in doing, asking as a fan of both of you? Yeah, absolutely would. Yeah, I should. I'll probably email him then and find out what the crack is there. I'm not sure where he's located, to be honest. I know he's in the UK, but I'm not sure where. So yeah, no, that's absolutely something that I'd be interested in doing. Also, as well, while I've got you here, it's a bit of a what's the word? Bit of a skewed sample. I appreciate. That's not the word I was looking for, but it's going to have to do. But I'm thinking of speaking to the chaps who run Swords and Boards in Derby and seeing if they would fancy putting on, or fancy letting me put on, a Napoleonic black powder event. So it'd be a bit like a tournament, but not really. There might be some prize support. Hopefully there would be. But that would be things for like best army, best vignettes, things like that. So rather than being, oh yeah, you've just, like, destroyed more opponents than the others, well, there might be one for that as well. You know, the overall winner of the event. But would that be something people are interested in? I'm thinking if we did it points, it'd be probably 500 points. 2 games on Saturday, 2 games on Sunday, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. Or potentially 2 single games on Saturday, and then because it would be doubles in this case, and I haven't decided whether it's going to be or not. But if we do this, then it would be. So you'd each have 2 individual games on the Saturday, again 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, and then you'd have 1 joint game on the Sunday, where you had effectively 1,000 points against an opposing duo. So what do you think? Do you think that would be a good idea? Would that be something that you'd attend? I know there's obviously people international, so if one was running in your area, would that be the kind of thing that you would like to attend? Let me know, because if it is, then I'm going to put a video out on Wednesday talking about black powder events and how they could potentially run. So I'm going to ask this question there as well. But let me know what you think here, and I can then obviously put it into the video that I do on Wednesday. Absolutely love the thumbnail for that Italian vid. Yeah, I sent it to the missus. She's her father's Italian, and so I had to get the okay from her first. But it took me absolutely ages, so I'm glad she wasn't too offended by it. So. Absolutely love it. Yeah, I think the best Gita prices are Acadian Guardsmen. They were quite literally half the price 15 years ago, and as far as I can tell, it's the same sprues. They are exactly the same sprues. In fact, I am getting a Acadian army. I've got half of one already, so I just need to get the other half ready. Now, the thing is with Acadians, this is completely 100,000% off topic here. If you are interested in doing Imperial Guard, my recommendation would be you get the Cadian, I think it's called the Cadian Defense Force or something. That's about 100 quid. And then you buy, so Games Workshop do a set of 5 snap fit guys. They're all monopose. You just plug the las gun into the body. Get tons of those. Get 10 of those. They'll give you 50 guys. Then you use those as your main troopers, and the multi-part ones, you use those as sergeants, heavy weapons, special weapons, officers, all that stuff. But your main core infantry, you get out of the £6 for 5 box set. Now that's actually not bad value. I don't think you're approaching historical figures prices there. So that would be my recommendation. If you ever want to get Cadians, then that's what I would go for. Tip for all you 40k players out there. I've got a big Vostroyan Guard army, like a massive Vostroyan Guard army, which, to be honest, I am considering selling because I think it'll be it should be worth quite a bit of money. But we shall see. Having done that Italian video, I quite fancy an Italian army now. So now I know how much you can get for 200 quid. I'm all about them Italian boys. Don't clip that. Don't don't put it out as a separate clip. Cool. Thanks for the tip. Templar Black is on my shopping list now. Yeah, no, it's really good. I use it almost exclusively now. It's absolutely fantastic stuff. You can get 60 multi-pose points for £22 versus G stuff. If you play mostly skirmish games, that's basically an army. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, you can get certainly a sharp practice army. You can just buy 1 box of Victrix and you're good to go. Me and General Andy, we were going to do the Egypt campaign, so we started on that. And obviously, that's gone by the board now. But I was looking at doing, because I'm a contrarian, I can't do sharp, so I was going to do Hornblower instead. So I've got a bunch of Victrix. I bought a box of Victrix infantry, and I got the round hats from Brigade Games. They're the hats that Victrix used to do, but I think Brigade Games sell all their metals now. So they were going to get turned into booties. I bought some Perry naval stuff as well as some from Brigade actually. So I've still got that in the drawer. It's an army I need to get to at some point. But now obviously Andy, with his passing, I don't really know anyone who plays sharp practice. I don't really know anyone who can teach me how to play it either. I should probably read the rules. I can't imagine they're that difficult. But I'm converting Lord of the Rings to use as for Napoleonics. Now, I've done it for a long time, but I've never really written it down. I've just sort of fudged it as I've been going. So I'm in the process of writing out those rules, and perhaps I'll do a video on it one day. I'd like to submit it to something like Wargames Soldiers and Strategy, see if they'd publish it. But again, I'm a long way from doing that yet. I'm not entirely certain of the copyright implications, so I wouldn't want to get those guys in trouble. Let's have a look. Any ideas on when the Prussians at Waterloo will be done? Pretty excited for that one. I'm going to be honest, Damjan. I'm sorry to say, buddy, it's not going to be for a while. I say not a while, possibly a couple of months. I am doing the Brunswickers in the Peninsula at the moment. That's going to be the next big deep dive. I've got the second part of the Swiss to do, but I'm a bit sort of Peninsula worn out at the moment. So I think once I've done the Brunswickers, again, I'm a little bit Germaned out, but I might start the process of looking at the Prussians then. So if we say that's going to be done maybe next week, week after, depends how busy I am at work, then that's May, so June, maybe July. Now, October, just as it was last year, is going to be a themed month. So I've already got the theme for October. So they're all done now, apart from this chap here. He's going to have a different colour coat, so I'm quite happy with those. I'll put those to one side. Yeah, it's going to be another themed month like it was last year. Last year we had Russia month. This year we're going to have something a little bit different. I'm hoping that it's going to be something very different. I'm hoping people go with it, but we'll see. It might not be what people are looking for, so we shall have to see. Hi, John. I would definitely watch it if I could, but being half continent away, having to start my army would not be able to. No, that's fair enough. If you're interested in doing Imperial Guard, do Napoleonics, not 40k. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. They're the real Imperial Guard, aren't they? I tend to find a lot of people who are into historicals, though, do Imperial Guard if they're playing 40k. I don't see many people who play, Germans in bolt action and Tyranids or something like that. I guess there's something in the brain that just attracts historicals to the Imperial Guard. It was better when they had the old Perry metal regiments, though. And you had like the Valhallans, who were like World War II Russians, and I mean the Australians. They came much later, but they're cool as well. They're like Cossacks, or the Cadians were sort of like 60s US kind of guys. The Kachans were Vietnam, crazy muscle Vietnam guys. Talons were awesome, like LRDG type figures. I really like the Talons actually. Steel Legion were sort of like World War One/World War II Germans. A bit like the Death Corps of Krieg. I do have an absolutely humongous Death Corps of Krieg army as well. But it was, shall we say, mostly got from the China sector. In fact, when I first discovered Chinese recasters, which I'm not promoting, by the way, but I had a genuine Death Corps of Krieg army. It was about, I think I sold it for about £500, and then used all that money to buy the army from China, and I got maybe 4 times as many figures. Now, admittedly, they weren't so good, those. The quality of the Chinese recast was pretty piss poor, but they've certainly upped their game in recent years. So yeah, no, it's definitely going to be a struggle for Games Workshop to keep their prices, but they don't seem to be slowing down with them, that's for sure. If you're interested in read the event, is it something that I actually get a choice in, or I just get signed up for it like usual? Absolutely, Dan. Well, I've got to get someone to drive me, haven't I? So while you're there, you may as well play some games as well. Cheeky bastard. My recommendation for Imperial Guard would be 1, don't and look at Wargames Atlantic Grognards. Yeah, I've only seen pictures of them. I've not seen them in the flesh. They do look cool though. Again, it's a really good idea. I got the plastic stormtroopers that Games Workshop did, the Scions, and I was like, the figures are not great. They've got these like big sort of breastplates on. They don't look fantastic, but I changed the head, so it's literally just you glue the head in. And instead of that, I used Russian Kiwa, the Grenadier ones with the big plume on, the Russian Shakos, from Warlord Games, and they looked sweet as. They looked really, really good. So if you're going to do Stormtroopers and you've got some spare Russians lying around, then I can recommend that. That looks really good, because I've got the Vostroyans, as I say, so they're like the Cossacks. I wanted the Grenadiers to go with them. But no, 40k is all right. I've not played any of the latest edition. So that's hence the reason why I'm thinking of selling my army. But it's all right. It gets people into the hobby. That's the important thing. Most of them will just stay with 40k or drift away. But, if half a dozen of them come over to Napoleonics, then it's not cost us anything, has it? So it's good. I think every time Games Workshop have a new edition of 40k as well, I think particularly particularly Bolt Action get an influx of players, which gets people into Warlord, gets people into historicals, and I think it's a much easier step from, say, Bolt Action to Napoleonics than it would be from, say, 40k to Napoleonics. So it makes a good way of getting people into the historical side of the hobby with something that they're sort of familiar with. World War II and 40k aren't that dissimilar. You got tanks, guns, support weapons, all that stuff. So it's a good way of getting people into the historical side of it, and they can then go into Napoleonics or more rank and flank things. One of the things that really surprised me when I went to the Greatest Game in Glasgow was the average age. I was expecting to be like the youngest person there, but I really wasn't. Now, there were some people, they weren't necessarily all gamers, but the players I spoke to, they were, for the vast majority of the time, younger than me. So either that means I'm an old bastard, which is also true, or it just means that there's more young people interested in Napoleonics than I thought there was. So that's good as well. I think reenacting as well has a lot of Napoleonic reenacting seems to be quite a relatively young scene as well. So that's quite good. It's not really something I've ever done, but I've got some friends who very, very much into it. And yeah, they tell me that it's, you know, it's a reasonably young scene, or it is for those guys anyway. Hello, Robin. Nice to see you, my friend. Good morning to you, buddy. Hang on, I've missed a couple of messages. Let me scroll up. Probably new Canadians coming soonish there. What, for Bolt Action? Yeah, I've heard there's new Canadians coming. I'm quite looking forward to them, actually. I know I'm not really sure about the Canadians in the Second World War. Now, I should say that the reason I don't know much about the Canadians in the Second World War is I'm absolutely no Second World War expert at all. But I do know in the First World War, the Canadians were considered very, very, very good troops. In fact, the German intelligence would often try and discover where the Canadians were in the line. And if they found that they were next to the Anzac troops, then the Germans were like, there's a push coming, and that's where it's coming. Because the Canadians and the Australians were considered the top two storming divisions of the British. Although they also didn't like the Gurkhas either. The Germans were absolutely terrified of the Indian army. I remember reading at Verdun, the Germans blew up so the Germans took a bunker. Now, this is one of my favourite World War I stories. The Germans took a bunker. I can't remember which one it was. It might have been Fort Douaumont, but I could be wrong. And they so they're taking the fort. The French are outside, and there was some Bavarians in there, and they decided they wanted to cook some soup or some tea or something. So they were like, oh, well, yeah, we'll use this tin that's like lying around. So they stuck it on the fire. Unfortunately, it had been previously was a grenade tin. So this tin exploded because it obviously had like trace powder in the bottom. And that explosion flashed down the corridor and blew up the main magazine in the fort. So the whole thing like slid down the hillside, basically. And the guys who were caught in the explosion were obviously like blackened by the fire. So they came like stumbling out, and they were like pleading to the Germans to help them. The Germans thought they were Gurkhas because they were all their skin was very dark. So they just like lit them up and killed them all. That's sort of how terrified of the Gurkhas they were. I do like the idea of some like chilled Bavarians cooking some soup in a grenade tin, though. That does make me laugh. I'm not sure what the Prussian High Command would have made of that one. Or Prince Ruprecht was in charge of that army, so I can't imagine he was too thrilled. Random, hello sir. Nice vids. I'm also into Napoleonics, but doing the 1/72 20mm scale. That's absolutely fine. In fact, I've said quite a few times, I think some of the 1/72 stuff, particularly from Zvezda, is as good, if not better, than some of the 20mm stuff. If Zvezda did more stuff, so they do Eastern Front, their Russians are absolutely superb. Really, really nice cannon. They're gorgeous. The French are quite nice as well. 20mm is. I know I talk about 28mm on the channel. That's just because I have 28mm. I know 20mm seems to be a bit of an overlooked scale. People either tend to go 28mm or 15mm. And I think it's a shame because there are some absolutely phenomenal 20mm sculpts out there. Even like Hat. I mean, I don't think Hat are great. I really don't think Hat are great. But they do a huge variety of models. And, if you want some guys marching, well, Hat are perfect for that. Because, they may not be particularly spectacular, but you don't want spectacular. You just want dudes marching. So, no, they're very useful for that. My 28mm Bavarian army is Hat 28mm. Again, they're not incredible. They're not amazing. But they're also not terrible. And I think that's probably the best you can ask for at some points, is to have figures that are not terrible. Especially if there's no other alternative. I mean, I was looking at them getting some more yesterday. I think they are, I think you get 40 odd in a box. and they're $8.99 on a website I've seen. So $8.99 for 40 25mm figures or 28mm figures is not too shoddy at all. Command, like high command, I've got the Perrys for them. Cavalry, I've got the Perrys. That's just because Hat don't do 28mm Bavarian cavalry, otherwise I would have bought those. But for the infantry, for the massed ranks of the infantry, I think I've spent about 150 quid, and I've got more Bavarians than I think the Bavarian army did. The first battle report, when we get back to it, I'm hoping to use my Bavarians in that, actually, because if nothing else, that'll force me to base them. They're currently all painted and glued on bases, but I just really am not looking forward to getting the sand and paint on them for their bases. I've left it too late now. That's the problem. I've got too many. I should have done it when I just had 1 or 2 battalions, and then it wouldn't have been such an insurmountable chore. But now I've got, I don't know, 7, 8 battalions to do. Yeah, problem is getting them out of G-Dub Swamp and actually into good games. Sorry, not a G-Dub fan. No, that's fine. I think, it's whatever people are interested in, isn't it? I think it's important that we welcome people wherever they come from. It's how people get into the hobby. There's not many high street shops selling war game stuff these days. There's certainly certainly high street shops selling war game stuff that's not Games Workshop. I can't really think of any. We're very lucky to have in Sheffield War Games Emporium that's in the town centre. But you look at places like Element Games, or even Boards and Swords I talked about earlier on, Wayland Games down in Hockley. The problem is with all those places, they tend to be on industrial estates, and there's just no, like, you don't walk past them and think, oh, what's this? So, people who might be interested in wargaming never get exposed to it, so they don't even know it's a thing. So at least Games Workshop does that. And I think now as well, now more than ever, it's more acceptable to wargame than it was. Certainly when I was growing up, it was, well, to be fair, when I was growing up, even computer gaming, you kept quiet that you were into computer games because people would call you a nerd. And these days, you get beaten up if you didn't play computer games. So, yeah, no, it's weird how these things come around. But, it's good. It's good there's a lot more acceptance of these things. Something else we've got here in Sheffield, actually, which is I'm really looking forward to getting back to when the lockdown ends, is we've got a board game cafe. So you go down there and you're like, I want to rent a table for an hour or whatever. And they've got a big library of board games on there that you can play. So that's really good. I want to play Iron Harvest from there. That's a game set in Eastern Europe in an alternative 1920s. That looks quite good. Oh, a Scythe, sorry. The board game is Iron Harvest, the computer game. So I quite want to play that. My brother recently bought the Kickstarter for Cthulhu Death May Die. I've only played one game of that so far, but I absolutely love that. I'm a huge H.P. Lovecraft fan, so that is absolutely in my wheelhouse. I'm really looking forward to getting some more games of that in. But certainly, I think games and wargaming doesn't have the social stigma that it did when I was growing up in the sort of the 90s, early 2000s. I certainly don't think it's as it has that negative connotations as it used to. Hello, great to hear you live. Well, it's nice to see you, Dominic. Thank you. Watching your videos with interest. You have a lot of videos for Black Powder Rules. Have you ever considered going for sharp practice from Two Fat Lardies? My group is building armies for 1809 Tyrol based on sharp practice. Oh, that's cool. Well, I would say check out my video on Andreas Hoffner because I like whoring my own content. So check that out. As I say, yeah, me and Andy were playing some sharp practice. We played a few games, and I'll be honest, I didn't hugely enjoy it, but I don't really think we knew what we were doing either. So I don't think that's the fault of the rules. I think that was the fault of us going in half cock. So yes, I would like to do a bit more sharp practice. As I say though, I really like Lord of the Rings as a rule system. What I like about Lord of the Rings is it's about having, stars of the show slaughtering thousands of extras. Now that is basically Sharp in a can there, isn't it? So, and you also can even convert Boromir, who's obviously Sean Bean. You can convert him to be a rifleman. Although these days, with the Wargames Atlantic one, they have put a Sharp and a Harper figure in there, effectively, which is super cool. In fact, I'm off into town later on. I'm hoping to pick up a box of the Wargames Atlantic rifles for two reasons. One, because I only have about 60 riflemen, so clearly I need more. But no, the main reason is I want to do a maxing your minis on them. I think you can get quite a lot of figures out of the riflemen. I think there's going to be a lot of different variations of light infantry you can do with them. I know you can certainly do, obviously, rifles. You can do the 60th Regiment, the Royal American Rifles. You can do Cazadors. I'm sure there's going to be some Spanish troops that you can do with them as well. And I'm also going to look to see if you can do things like the Lusitania Legion or the Chasseurs Britannique. I'm not 100% sure about them, but it's certainly something that I want to look at. Sorry, your mother. Completed 2K Army of Space Marines literally 2 weeks before 9th edition hit and changed everything again. Lo and behold, now getting into Napoleonics. Yeah, that's how it goes, Campbell. I mean, I did hear someone mentioning about, was there going to be a second edition of Hail Caesar recently? And Rick Priestley said no. So the historical certainly seems to move a much slower pace than Games Workshop does. And that's good, because I think, by and large, it's tweaks to the rules that need doing rather than complete overhauls. I think the second edition of Black Powder certainly overhauled some of the issues that the first edition had. It created other ones as well, but I think it was worth having a second edition for that one. Is there going to be a third edition of Black Powder? I don't know. I don't think there needs to be. I would much rather that they focused on getting out more campaign books than another edition. Certainly campaign books I'd like to see would be 1809, 1805, which I'm really surprised they've not done one for that. I mean, you could do 1805 and 1806 in the same book if you're worried about not having enough content for 1805. Although why you would worry about that, I don't know, because there'd be tons of content in there. Even 1800, I wouldn't mind seeing a bit of Marengo campaign action. Or you could even do Revolutionary Wars, so that would be Napoleon in Italy, Napoleon in Egypt, obviously a pet love of mine. You could do, what did I say, Napoleon in Italy, so you could do is it the Wallachian campaign or something? I can't remember the exact word. Wallachian, no, that's, Wallachia is Romania, isn't it? It's the one where the Duke and the British invaded, I think it was Holland, wasn't it, that they launched troops into? I mean, there's India. I mean, I would absolutely die to see an India supplement. That would be incredible. All the armies, the Madrasa armies, the armies of Skinder and the Tipu Sultan. Oh, that'd be absolutely awesome. But I can't see that happening anytime soon, I'm afraid. The Peri-Indian troops, though, have definitely tickle my taste buds on those ones. I'm looking to see if there was an expedition by Indian troops in like the Middle East, maybe against the Persians or the Ottomans or something like that. But I've not found much yet. I think they may have attacked Egypt, but after our period. So that's all those done. Quite happy with those so far. We're still cracking on. Just noticed a bit on the trousers here that I've missed from the previous sprue. One of the things with the contrast paints is because they're very shiny, you can't always see the bits you've missed when they are wet. Oh, I missed a bread bag there. That's annoying. You can't always see the bits you've missed when they're wet, so it's often worth putting them to one side and then coming back to them when they're dry and just making sure that everything's done. Damn Jan, I've noticed a lot of young'uns joining the hobby lately. Definitely not against letting them in, or anyone for that matter. It's important that people are joining. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's the key thing. To be honest, I certainly rail against the "oh yes, his buttons are wrong" approach of Napoleonics, and I think Napoleonics has it more than maybe any other period. And I think it's a real shame that people have that perception of Napoleonic Wargamers. I can see why they do, and I absolutely hate it whenever I see it on, particularly on Facebook. I see it from time to time, but I have to say it's not as often as I think you would think. If that makes sense. You know, if someone says, "Yeah, this is done. I'm really happy with it," it's very rare that I see people say, "Oh yeah, but you know the lining on the shabrak's the wrong colour," or "Oh yeah, I see you've given him, you know, a brown horse when that regiment rode blacks," or whatever. So I don't see that very often. I do very occasionally see it, but no, I agree. I think, you know, it's just about welcoming people into a different aspect of the hobby, and if they enjoy it, they enjoy it. If they don't, they don't. You know, you can't force people into liking a period. Isn't that right, Dan? Slavishly using IGO-UGO system in combination with assistance on DC cripples GW games. Yeah, well, it's interesting you say that, because their most popular games are ones that don't use IGO-UGO. So, I mean, well, I say their most popular games. That's not true. 40k is their most popular game, and, you know, that is very much IGO-UGO. But I think their most beloved games, shall we say, often don't use the IGO-UGO system. So games like Epic, they didn't. They had like orders. I think Battlefleet Gothic might have done. But yeah, no, I think you're right. I think a much more dynamic approach is better. I quite like bolt action. I like the drawing of dice. I think that's pretty cool. I think that's how sharp practice works as well, isn't it? You draw the cards. I also like Malifaux. Now, I used to play a lot of Malifaux. When Malifaux first came out, I used to listen to a lot of podcasts. And I listened to the D6 Generation, which I don't even know if it's still going, but if it is, it's a good podcast. And they did an episode on Malifaux, and then about 2 or 3 weeks later, this is when I was living down in Essex. A couple of weeks later, I went to Salute. I was actually working with Aaron Dembski-Bowden at the time, the author. So I was down there with him, and we found the Malifaux stand, and I spent so much money on Malifaux, it was not even funny. I don't think the rules had even come out then, or they may have been coming out at Salute. But they have a system of alternate activations. So I mean, that's a skirmish game. You have maybe a dozen figures, probably less than that. I play the guild. I used to. I was a big fan of Lady Justice. The figures that got me into it were the what were they called? The Death Marshals. So they were like cowboys with like giant coffins on their back. They're super cool, man. You make me want to play Malifaux now. So yeah, no, that's got alternate activations. So you activate, say, a Death Marshal, then your opponent activates their master, Nicodem or whatever, and then you go back and forth like that. So I think, yeah, no, I agree. I think the IGO-UGO was, I mean, it was revolutionary for the time of, you know, the 80s when they came out. Before then, everything was simultaneous and written down like WRG. So yeah, no, it was good at the time, but I think new, more interesting mechanics have come along now, and I agree. I think Games Workshop could probably do with making 40k more dynamic. I think one of the big problems it's got at the moment, particularly for the last edition, less so in this edition, but it still does happen, is that turn 1 leaf blower. I mean, I played a tournament with my Imperial Guard in the last edition, and by the end of turn 1, which took me about 40 minutes because I was just shooting so much, I could tell you whether I'd won or lost the game, because either I'd slaughtered 2/3 of my opponent's army, or I hadn't. And if I had, I'd won. If I hadn't, I'd lost. So yeah, no, I think the IGO-UGO is a big problem for 40k in Games Workshop at the moment. I think that's something they could definitely do with having a very, very good look at. That said, it'd be a massive change to the rules, so I don't know if they will or not, but we shall see. Now, these guys here are going to be my Americans, so I'm going to do a quick Google and see if the Americans have grey trousers or not. Hang on. So according to Google, They are mostly white with the odd grey pair. So I'll tell you what, I won't do those guys. That was always great TV watching someone Google. I saw the Pelican. No, was it the Pelican Brief? Or was it the other one? The Sandra Bullock film where she's like a computer hacker. I can't remember what it's called, but I saw it recently, and it was like computer hacking in the 90s. It was so funny. It was absolutely hilarious. Yeah. Oh, what was he called? She was like a conspiracy theory. I don't know. I can't remember. Yeah, no, that was some good fun seeing 90s hacking going on. Hello, friends of General Haig. It's nice to see you as well. Good to catch up. Here, Dan Jan. Canadians also helped liberate Holland in 1945. Yeah, no, they absolutely did. Yeah, I'm throwing absolutely no shade on the Canadians because I mean, you know, they're very brave. They sacrificed a lot for Britain. I just don't really know much about them in World War II, if I'm honest. Imperial Guard with metal Praetorians were great. Zulu or British chainsaw. Yeah, no, they were great. They're also great if you've still got them now, because if you've got them in blisters, they are worth an absolute fortune. They are one of the things that will make super bank for you. I've told this story before, but I had a Skaven army for War Master, and I never used it. I was never going to use it. So I sold it to, I think it ended up going to a guy in like Sweden or Holland or Norway or somewhere. I think it was Sweden. And the money I made from selling this army got me a flight to Paris, 4 nights in a hotel, and the train to Brussels for the Waterloo 200. So yeah, no, it was a lot of money. It was definitely a good sale, I would say. Robin Lewis, to get back to the company, to the core video, when we build infantry regiment battalion 1 to 20, what's the size of cavalry regiments? Just wondering. I tend to go for 12 figures when you're doing that. Now, obviously, it depends on how many cavalrymen were actually in the unit, but it tends to be around about 500 in a regiment. Obviously, it depends on the nation. Austrians, they have, if you're doing 1 to 20, they have regiments of around about 27 figures, maybe 36. So Austrians have absolutely humongous regiments. I mean, Austrians always have humongous regiments. In fact, Black Powder rules suggest that you split a regiment into squadrons. So their light cavalry had 8 squadrons. So I would probably do those as 4 regiments. And the heavy cavalry has 6 squadrons. So I'd probably do those. Yeah, well, sorry. The light cavalry have 8 squadrons. So I would probably do that as 4 units, not 4 regiments, 4 units on the table. And the heavy cavalry had 6 squadrons. So I would probably do those as 3 units. So each one of those would be two squadrons, which is probably around about 10 to 12 figures. So yeah, I mean, when I do the getting started videos, I tend to do 1 to 33, which gives us the battalions of 24 and cavalry units of 8. And the reason for that is someone actually asked me that. They said, you know, did we ever decide on why you've gone for that scale? And I didn't. To be honest, I didn't realise it was a thing that we were questioning. So that shows more my ignorance than anything else, I guess. But the reason for that is it's quite an old-fashioned thing. I think it might be WRG. I know Newark certainly had 1 to 33 in their thing. I remember, what's his name? The guy who did Napoleon's campaigns in miniatures. Hang on, I've got the book here. Bruce Quarry. He did, I think it might have been 1 to 33. I remember a regiment of infantry being 27 figures anyway. Because I've got a 50mm army that's based on his unit sizes. And, oh, God, they only rebasing as well. I do love my 50mm. I don't think I've ever played a game with them. But I do love them, I have to say. They're Essex miniatures, who are absolutely 100% not the best 50mm figures out there. But I just love them. It's like the Mike's Minis. I've shown them before on live stream. I just love Mike's Minis as well. I think they're terrible models. They're like short, dumpy, but I absolutely love them. They've got so much character in them. Something that AB are absolute works of art, but there's no real character in there. Mike's models are shockingly bad, but they are just oozing character. Not a lot worse than trying to blow up the Vienna Bridge. Prussian High Command. Yeah, no, that's true, actually. Yeah. Oh, the Prussians, bless them. Victoria mentions a good alternate GW sculpts. Yes, they are actually well hung in dung. Well, I'd go with, to be honest, I would go with Perry Zulu Wars. Or possibly Afghan Wars. I said on the last live stream, I've just bought a 3D printer. And there's a lot of stuff out there for converting heads and things like that. So you may have heard me complain several times before about there not being a way of getting, say, Bavarian heads that you glue on Austrian bodies. Voila, you've got yourself a Bavarian. But 3D printing, I think, is actually a really good way of doing that. I'm trying to look into how to 3D sculpt because I have zero artistic ability whatsoever. So doing it digitally might actually help me out because you can, if you can get, say, a pre-rendered face or pre-rendered head, then you just really got to concentrate on the helmet after that. You could do the two types. You could do is it the Rupen helm and the other one that they had. So you could do early Bavarians or late Bavarians as well. I think that would be a good way of doing it. Mr. Killarovsky, hello. Nice to see you, buddy. Trying to make a 28mm Leipzig 1813 army and lack of Russian plastic cavalry out there is really sad. Hoping for good things from the Peri-Russian Uhlans when they arrive. Yeah, me too as well. They've got they've also talked about their heavy cavalry they're doing. But no, they're going to look really, really nice. You probably know more about this than I do. How would Victrix Guard Lancers, how would they work as Lithuanian Uhlans? They might be Austrian, actually. Well, they won't be there. Lithuanians part of Russia then, isn't it? So, yeah, I don't know how they would work for Uhlans. They might work quite nicely. They've got a lot of scrambled egg all over them. But I'm sure that the Uhlans in dress uniform probably were as richly decorated as the Guard Lancers were. So you can either shave it off, I suppose, or you can just, be like, well, they're in their dress uniforms. But no, Russian cavalry is definitely something I've been banging on about for a long time. I was surprised to see them do joint Russian and Prussian cavalry in the same box. That seemed a little bit odd to me. But why not? If it works, if it means that Prussian players and Russian players get what they want at the same time, then that can only be a good thing, can't it? Also, for me, it means that there's going to be loads of people with spare Russian heavy cavalry heads. And that's going to be super useful because I want to do the Pskov regiment, the PSKOV. I'm not entirely sure how it's pronounced because, it's me. But those guys had French cuirasses, but they kept their Russian helmets. So you can just buy a box of French cuirassiers, bang those heads on, and you got yourself the Pskov cuirassiers. They're nice pink facings. I always go, if there's a regiment, I'm painting up a unit and there's a regiment that has pink facings, that'll always be like in the first 2 or 3 regiments. That's what I'll go for. My Austrians, they were the first ones I painted. My Dragoons, they were the first Dragoons I painted, were the ones with the pink facings. So not Chasseurs. I missed out on the Chasseurs. I went for yellow with them because I wanted to try the yellow contrast paint. Spoiler alert, the yellow contrast paint, not amazing. It's not bad, but it's not one that I would turn to readily. I think I'll probably crack on with the old, orangey yellow and then move up to the brighter yellow highlight rather than use a contrast film. I'm not hugely impressed with it. I might need to shake it more. That might be the reason to be fair to it, give it its dues. But so far, yeah, I wasn't hugely keen Yes, I have Zvezda Napoleonic sets. This is Cat Roger. Yes, I have Zvezda Napoleonic sets, and the detail is marvellous. But yes, hat figures for bulk ranks. Yeah, absolutely. Well, the way Zvezda has started doing their new business model as well, of having the small set. So those of you who don't do 20 mil, there's a manufacturer out there. I believe they're Russian, although that could be very offensive because they might also be Ukrainian. Not entirely sure. Hang on, give me a second. They've got the flag on their box. Yeah, no, there we are. So they're Russian. They're a Russian company. These are Swedish artillery of Charles XII. I did Peter the Great at school in my A-levels, so I've always had a bit of a soft spot for some Peter the Great action. So I obviously need some Swedes to go with him. But yeah, they're a Russian company who do 20 mil stuff. But honestly, I think some of it is easily the equal of 28 mil figures. There's a website called Plastic Soldier Review, and they do pretty much every 20 mil set going. They do pictures and they do a review of it, as the name suggests. If you've not seen any 20 mil and you think, oh, you know, that's for the pause, check out Zvezda on the Plastic Soldier Review, because their Napoleonic stuff is absolutely phenomenal. But they've gone from doing boxes of, 60 figures or 40 figures or whatever it was, to boxes of just 4 figures, 3 or 4 figures, and they're usually a command set. So if you get, say, I don't know, for say you buy French Dragoons, because I know Zvezda do a command set of those. So you buy, say, hat French Dragoons, they might not necessarily be amazing, but the command, you can buy the Zvezda Dragoon command, and they are absolutely lip-smackingly good. They are lovely figures. You've been to the Outpost in Sheffield, Last Bastion in Rotherham. I have been to the Outpost in Sheffield. In fact, I ran a Warhammer tournament in the Outpost, and they shut the gaming room like the next day. So I don't know if that was because of me or not. Now, they are on about having more gaming tables in there, but I haven't been in since they reopened, I have to say. I'm going into town later on, so I might pop in on the way. But the one in Rotherham, no, I haven't been to. I hear a lot of people talking about it, particularly at my gaming club, and they say nothing but good things about it. But I very rarely, if ever, have reason to go to Rotherham, to be honest. Although if I did, I'm sure I would pop in and have a look, see what's going on. Eureka has some nice trophies. Yeah, it does, Robin. I said in my video on Andreas Hoffner that there wasn't really anyone that did him, and that was a complete and out lie. They do have some really nice figures. Trent Miniatures do Tyrolese as well, I believe they're called, as well. But I think the Eureka ones are probably nicer. I do like the Eureka stuff. Their Saxon Guard decor were absolutely phenomenal models. Absolute chunks of metal. Though you stick them in a sock, you could really do some damage. But no, they were really, really nice figures. Again, I don't think I've ever got them on the tabletop, so I'm looking forward to getting some of those. I got those and is it the Zratau or the Zaptau or something? The Krazia regiment that was at Borodino with them as well. The thing that does slightly annoy me about the Guard decor, though, is that famously at Borodino, so the Saxon Guard decor, they're like the Guard cavalry, and they wore cuirasses. But famously, they didn't at Borodino because their baggage train hadn't caught up with them in time. So they wore their greatcoats rolled up and slung across their bodies to give a bit of sabre protection. Which is fine, that's all well and good. But any Saxon Guard decor models that you can buy have that, and they don't have the cuirasses on. And it's like, well, yeah, okay, they didn't have their cuirasses for one battle. But what about all the other battles they fought in? What about all the other battles they fought in 18, 13, and 14? So, yeah, I do find that a little bit annoying, I have to say. But still, the Eureka miniatures are lovely, really, really nice. Quite difficult to get a hold of in the UK now. I say that. No, that's not true. There is a Eureka UK supplier, but they have a massive markup on them. So they are quite expensive. Something of a treat for yourself. I think, you know, if you were to say, right, you know, I've bought a Saxon army, I've got a dozen regiments of infantry painted, I want something to treat myself, then some Eureka Saxon Guard Corps or some Eureka Krasiers would just fit the bill, I think. So you've seen, I mean, we started about an hour ago. I'm going to be able to run till probably 12:30. I need to be at the cafe at 1 or my guts will be garters. So yeah, we've been going about an hour, and we've not been working super hard. Yeah, I've been chatting with you guys and reading your comments and stuff, which is all cool. And we've done 6. This is the 7th sprue that we're getting on. So if I sort of had head down, I could probably be on about 10 by now. But this is that thing of, these are all the trousers and the greatcoats. You know, they're done at this point. So the plan is to try and paint this whole set in a month. I think if by the end of this week, if I can have most of the British units done, so that would be the straps I haven't really started on yet. So that's going to need quite a lot of work. That's probably going to take me the rest of the week just to do the British straps. Then maybe over the weekend, I'll be able to do all the faces, so for the British and the French. Then hopefully I'll be on target to succeed. And when I say by all the British, I include the Hanoverians in that. You see there, I've splodged some on his shoe. Doesn't really matter. We're going to cover that up with some Black Templar later. Again, I've got some on his cuff. It's all right. I'm going to do the British in here, the ones I've painted red. I'm going to do them as the KGL, so that means that I can use them in the Peninsular War as well. And although the KGL had the same shakos as everyone else in the Peninsular War, the stovepipes only switch into the Belgic very late on, when the rest of the army did. It's still going to help them stand out on the tabletop. And that's, you know, I mean, that's, I don't mind that. It's a bit of historical inaccuracy for tabletop awesome. So I don't mind that at all. Oh, one thing I will say is absolutely horrible weather out there. That's very grim. Look forward to sitting outside in this, he said. But I'm very jealous of you guys in the States. I've been seeing particularly 40k tournaments coming out of the US. So I can't wait for that scene to get back into the swing of things again. Like I say, you know, I don't really play 40k. I've not played it this edition, but it's just nice to see people getting out there and having events. And if there's, you know, 40k events happening, then there might be Art de la Guerre events or Black Powder or what's the other one? The Osprey Salamander game, March of Eagles, I think it is, Clash of Eagles, something like that. That's a tournament Napoleonic game as well. So yeah, and that's just nice to see events coming back. Hopefully we'll be getting them in the UK soon. Maybe by, I think, June, social distancing ends. I mean, yeah, whatever that means. So hopefully by then we'll get back into the swing of things. Let's just hope we don't have another big outbreak. So banging these on there. Bosh, put that on there. Yep, so I think that's good. We're really cooking on gas now. Now I could do the Shako covers with this grey. I still might. I think they're usually black. They're oilskin. But because they are oilskin, they're sort of a black-grey sheen. So I think you can get away with doing either or. The grey would probably look a little bit better because you would see more variation on the figure then. So the detail would be a bit more clear than it is with black. But I think I probably will end up doing them black. Just because it's a little bit quicker as well, I find. With the French, I'll probably do a mixture of different colours. So again, most will be black, but some I will do a linen colour. And some, I've actually done a couple where I've just left it white and put an Agrax Earthshade wash over the white. And that can look quite good as well, actually. because I have seen reenactors in white Shako covers. I don't know if it's like a light infantry thing or something. I have definitely seen white Shako covers. Eureka miniatures are perfect. Our main source of the project. Oh, well, there you go then. If you are finding them perfect, then that's the important thing, isn't it? Maxi minis with Wargames rifles is probably good. What the fluff would you use 60 of them for? Yeah, no, exactly, yeah. Well, what it was is I bought a load of front rank ones, and then I bought the Perry ones, and then I bought the Warlord ones. So I've just got them coming out my ears, to be honest. But the Perry Command, the Metal Command, the guy who's like drawing his sword, he's a phenomenal figure. The Perry Command for the rifles is lovely. But also it's for Lord of the Sharp as well. So if we're doing one-to-one skirmish games, then, 30 or 40 of them could easily happen. Lord of the Sharp is my working title for the Lord of the Rings variant of Napoleonics. I've seen a couple more. Is it Picket? I think was a skirmish game that came out a few years ago. I've not really heard much about it since it came out, to be honest. I remember looking at the artwork and thinking it was absolutely dreadful. Now, you should not judge a book by its cover. I have no idea what the rules are like, but I don't really hear anyone talking about it. So they clearly didn't catch on. That doesn't mean that the rules weren't very good. It just means that they didn't necessarily catch the public imagination. Wild Karen, yes, thank you, Andreas. That was the bit where the British invaded. Yeah, so I'd like to see a book covering the early British Army when they weren't quite the powerhouse that they became towards the end of the Peninsular War. It'd be quite good to see them, again with the Indian Sepoy allies, something like that, when they were still the projectile fired by the Royal Navy, as someone once said about them. Well, again, I think that might have been a bit later. By the way, I might have heard a rumour that Paris are doing some Peninsular War deals. No idea. Oh, right, okay, well, that'd be good. Yeah, I mean, the mid-war infantry took long enough for them to do deals on them. I can't really work out why it took so long, but it certainly did. Now, I may have missed some messages, so if I have, I apologise, but because my computer, the internet up here is not great, that was the last message that I've got loaded on here. Was from Andreas about the Peninsular War deals, and the next one is from Mr. Bird. Can you use, for example, Sea Grey spray on metals and then use contrast paint? So anything that's between those two, I'm really sorry, I'm not ignoring you. They're not on my feed. So if there's a question or something that you'd like me to answer, then post it again, and I shall get to it. But can you, for example, use grey sea spray on metals and use contrast paint? Yes, I'm not entirely sure what you mean by that. You can use metals. You can use any of the contrasts over grey sear. I don't think there's any metal contrast paint, so you'd have to just use it as a normal undercoat and then paint the metal over the top, which is fine. I mean, that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to use Ironbreaker for the muskets and just paint them. I'm going to do the brown of the muskets first because that's more messy. Then I'm going to go back over and do the steel over the top of that. I'm not entirely sure what you mean there, Mr. Bird, but if you want some more clarity, and there's a follow-up question in there, I'll try and answer it a bit better for you, I'm afraid. Let's see. I think Black Powder supplements are heavily influenced by their figure range, but if you have a supplement in you, then I would contact them and offer to write it. Yeah, no, I absolutely would love to, actually. Yeah, no, I mean, there's not really much more I can say, to be honest. I love the work they do, and yes, I would love to write it. I agree to an extent that it's informed by their miniature range, but unfortunately, their miniature range is not informed by their supplements. So, for instance, they don't do Russian cavalry, which I think is a huge gap in the market. I can't believe no one's done it already. They don't do any are Prussian cavalry. Well, they do Prussian cavalry now, actually, so that's not true, is it? They do Prussian cavalry. And they've started doing the Spanish, which is nice as well. So, yeah, no, I agree. I think they're probably slowly filling up the range. Yeah, no, I mean, even in the supplements, and they're not like Games Workshop. They do have photographs of other manufacturers' models. There's a lot of Perrys in there, some front rank. So they've got the Eureka Saxons in there, in fact, actually. They've got the Saxon Grenadiers as well. I can't remember who does them, but they are phenomenal looking models. They look really nice. They look a bit like British Guardsmen, like today, that you see in Tripping the Colour or whatever. They've got the big bear skins on and red coats. They look awesome. I really like those guys. Not sure who makes them though. I don't think it might be Black Hussar Miniature. Might be those guys. Not 100% sure. I'm sure someone in the chat will know. So yes, no, I agree. I think they do. It does inform their supplements, but I don't think they slavishly follow it like Games Workshop do after their Chapter House loss. So now they won't release any rules for models that they don't produce, which seems a bit silly to me. But what do I know? Andreas Pearson, personally, I like digging into details like that, but that's fairly for my own sake. Others are free to pretty much whatever they want, as long as it's painted, but please not neon orange. Yeah, exactly, yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, if you enjoy that, that's fine, but it's about what the players, or sorry, not the players, it's about what the other person, the collectors, what they get out of the hobby. So if that's your thing, then absolutely 100%, there's nothing wrong with that. You go for it. But it's when people force that on other, and I'm absolutely not saying you do, but it's when people force that attitude on others that I tell you what, I see actually more than people being critical on Facebook, because like I say, I don't actually see it that often. Is I see people saying that they just don't post their models at all because they're worried that people are going to find faults with them. And I think that's even more of an issue because if they posted the models and found that no one, said, oh, well, the buttons are wrong or whatever, then that'd give them the confidence to post some more. And who doesn't like seeing painted models? So, I don't know. I think there's a perception problem more than a reality problem. And I don't know how you go about changing that perception. I hope that my channel helps change that perception. But I don't know. It's not an easy one, I don't think. Just cracking on with these. I've got the window open today. It's normally red hot up here, but it's absolutely freezing. It's blowing a hoolie out there today. I'm like Mary Poppins if I walk into town with my umbrella up. Yeah, Epic system works pretty well. I'm painting some Epic figures along with you right now. Oh, that's cool, Apop. What are you painting up? I bought the Adeptus Titanicus, like the new one. And I opened the box, looked at the sprues and went, nah, and put the lid back on the box. They look super, super complicated. But that said, they look absolutely awesome models. As soon as infantry, because I'm more of an infantry guy than I am big robots. As soon as infantry and tanks come out, I am all over that. Although, again, I have seen files for printing your own, so I might get into that as well. And just put them on the bases, if nothing else. It'd be cool to have some Terminators advancing with the Titan on the base or whatever. But no, that's cool, man. The Net. Thank you, Ian. That was the Sandra Bullock film, The Net. Yeah. Seriously, if you're struggling for a film to see and you want to look back on how the way we was, then I can highly recommend going back and checking out The Net. Got locked out of my school for lunch, so I'll tune in for this. Oh, right, okay. That's fair enough. So you got locked out of school. It's bank holiday, dude. Maybe not be bank holiday where you are, I guess. But we used to get thrown out for lunch, so we weren't allowed to stay inside. We started a card club though, so we managed to find an empty classroom and throw down some gin rummy. We used to play quite a lot of actually, or a whist. Whist was the like the obsession with us in sixth form. So I haven't played whist in years, man. I have to get back into that. Bruce Quarry, yeah, there you go. He used 133 as 3 figures equal. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. 33 was a scale from the old airfix point rules. Yep, no, that's fine. So I guess I make my cavalry regiments larger and split them in sensible size units for gaming purposes. Yeah, well, I mean, well, that's another way of doing it, isn't it? Is you can always... So again, like yesterday for the Italian video, I was like, well, you buy the chasseurs, you buy a metal command group, you've got 2 different regiments there. Or you could just, you don't buy a command group, you just buy a pack of regular troopers, and then you've got yourself like two squadrons, depending on the scale that you go for. So yeah, I mean, I think with plastics these days, I think it's more possible than ever to have big armies. I mean, at Waterloo, the greatest game, we had 3 units of 24 to a battalion. So we were running 72 figures per battalion for that one. So, I mean, I had... how many battalions I have? I had 6 battalions. So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely doable. That was the largest division. Sorry, the largest brigade in the game, though. I'm not sure I lost any units either, actually, in that game. Maybe 1. I should have been... Yeah, no, 1. Yeah, I should have been a lot more aggressive. Never mind. Evening all. All right, David. Morning all from Yorkshire Dragoon. Listening on while washing up at work. Very good. Here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. It's 6:15 in the morning. Oh, yeah, but you're in Baton Rouge, mate. I'd much rather be there than here, that's for sure. Well, it's nice and warm as well, because it certainly isn't here. So there we go. You must have plenty of Battle for New Orleans stuff around Louisiana as well, surely. So I'm doing a bit more War of 1812 study still. I still don't really understand it, if I'm honest. But yeah, that's coming along. I'm really enjoying getting into it. Actually, it's nice to look at these sub theaters. I mean, well, that'd be another good supplement as well. Actually, will be the War of 1812. Again, it's very niche, but you've already got most of the British, so you've got those. You can just port those figures over. You could sculpt a couple of boxes of American infantry, maybe 1 of regulars or 1 of militia. You could also use the militia as the Canadian militia as well if you wanted to, and maybe I mean, again, maybe a box of Indians that you could also use for 7 Years' War there as well. So that could be a because that's the thing with these suggestions, isn't it? They've got to be economically viable. There's no point in saying, oh yeah, you know, the troop type that I would really like are biblical Elamites. Because don't get me wrong, I'd love plastic biblical Elamites, but how much would they sell? Probably not very many. So I think it's about suggesting things that are economically viable. I think War of 1812 certainly could be, especially in the American market. I mean, you know, they've done American Civil War, this epic scale stuff, which incidentally, I can only assume they're going to do in Napoleonics as well. And I would be all over it if they do it in Napoleonics. But that's a different topic. So there's obviously an American market that they're appealing to there, although, you know, American Civil War is very popular over here as well. But yeah, no, War of 1812 supplement, that would be pretty awesome, I think, actually. Especially as there would be dual use for the 7 Years' War. So, or well, the French-Indian Wars. Quarter to 8 here in Hiroshima. Wow, you're watching from Hiroshima. Oh, mate, I would absolutely kill to go to Japan. Some friends of mine were going to go. So a lot of friends of mine live in Essex, work in London. And because of the lockdown, they were not allowed to go into work. So they had to work from home. So I know a bunch of them booked 2 weeks in Japan I think it was in October this year, for just the money they saved on travel into London. That's how expensive it is to travel into London here. But yeah, no, I would absolutely love to go to Japan. I'm a bit of a weeb, so it would be particularly good for me. I'm not like a mega weeb. I'm not into like manga or anything. But certainly Japanese history. Again, we're going back to full circle back to Zvezda. Their samurai range is also really, really nice. But yeah, no, I would love to go there. My dad, he was in the Navy in the 60s, and they stopped off in Hiroshima, and he said it was quite a sight to see the museum there and things like that. So that's also something else I would very much like to go and see. It's probably not as pleasant as the rest of the trip, I wouldn't have thought, but an important part of it nonetheless, I'm sure. But I'd love to go during cherry blossom season, because I absolutely love cherry blossom. But yeah, that's when it gets really expensive. I'd also really like to go to Hokkaido. That looks amazing as well. Hokkaido in the autumn would be really nice. It'd be like going to Canada in the autumn as well, when all the trees are turning. Oh man, I'm gonna stop talking about Japan, because I'm a nerd. So I'm gonna stop talking about Japan. But no. Well, welcome in Hiroshima. So we've got a real international audience. The only Eureka model I own is the Vivandier with cart and donkey. Look forward to painting that, Jim. Yeah, that's a lovely model, Robin. I've painted it, and I've still got a bag with all like the rabbit and the chickens and the pots and things that you can hang off the side of it, because I've not painted any of those yet. I should do really, but I just haven't got around to it. I thought, well, I'll paint the basics, get the model table ready, and then I can go back and do the extras later. Now, the problem is I think that a lot, and then I never go back and do the extras. But with that one, I've actually got the bag still on my painting table. And I just keep moving it from one place to the other. So eventually, I'll paint it just to get it out of the way. So that's my plan with the Vivandier cart. But no, it is a lovely model. In fact, I brought a load of stuff to pack away. I've got their, is this the wheelwright? Yeah, I've got the wheelwright there. He needs the basing finishing. He needs quite a lot more stuff doing to him. But yeah, so I've got him as well. I'm not quite sure what special rules to give him. I'll have to think of something for him. Maybe something that helps horse artillery, maybe? Or, I don't know. I'll have to think of something. Any suggestions would be much welcomed. He deals with wheels. He's a wheelwright, so I'm not really sure what we can do with that one. Maybe cannons can move more than once for one turn, then you discard him, something like that. So normally they can only move, like, you know, if you say, right, this brigade is going to move forward 3 moves and you roll double 1, the cannon can only be manhandled 1 move. So maybe it can move up to two movements, but then you remove the wheelwright or something like that. I'm not really sure. I haven't thought it through yet. You'll notice on the back, I'm just leaving this bit as a blob. I could paint that if I wanted to, but it's going to be covered by the pack. I'm going to end up probably scraping some of the hole off. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use super glue to glue these on, because plastic glue won't work because they're already painted. So I will be using super glue, but that peg with paint, so that makes that peg fatter, and the hole's got paint on as well, so that makes it thinner. So sometimes it doesn't fit. So try and get as little, I say putting a huge amount on, try and get as little paint on there as possible, because you're only going to have to scrape it off if you put too much on anyway, and that's extra time and effort that can be used elsewhere. And like I say, I've just I've just filled that hole with paint. I can use a little bit of an inkwell. There we go. You'll see as well, I'm just painting underneath the greatcoats as well. Don't really need to, but it does help the figures, I find. Because it's a white undercoat, I tend to find that, you know, if a little bit peeks out, then it can be very noticeable. Now, on these guys, it's not necessarily so bad because they've got white trousers on. But if you're doing, say, light infantry, some légère, or you're giving them funky coloured trousers, then it can stick out. It can be just take away from the overall effect. So for the extra half a second now, it's probably worth doing than you having to get them back on the painting table and just tidy up the bottom of their greatcoats. Regarding the paint job, you're very curious on how your technique is working out. Eager to see the final results. You know, speed painting. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm trying to think, have I got anything to hand to show you? I don't really. But this is how I pretty much paint exclusively these days. In fact, it's quite difficult. I was talking to a friend of mine. He is a very, very good painter. I was talking to him yesterday, and I was saying it's almost like shifting gears. So I feel like I'm in sort of 5th gear, painting all these guys. You know, it's all about speed and efficiency. It's about getting them done. But when I want to paint a character model, I find shifting down into 1st or 2nd gear really difficult to do. Really find it difficult to concentrate on all the fine details and things like that. You know, I'll pay extra for a Napoleon because, you know, you're only going to buy one of them. So, you know, instead of being £1, he might be £5. But I find myself not getting the enjoyment that I should do out of all the extra detail because I'm not in the right gear for it. It's a mindset thing. Nothing to do with the quality of the figure. It's to do with the painter's mindset. So, yeah, no, this is pretty much how I paint all my figures now. Yeah, it seems to work for me. Does it provide Golden Demon winning models? Absolutely not. Does it provide armies on the tabletop in a fairly short period of time? Well, I hope so. I mean, that's why I'm hoping that we'll see this whole box set done in a month, just to show that it is possible, and that, you know, by concentrating more on getting the bulk of it done, getting the basics done, you can get the figures on the tabletop. You can always go back and paint the specifics at a later date. If you've got more if you've got more self-discipline than I do, you can anyway. I'm just getting this in there. I was hoping to get all of these done today, but I might call it a day on the greatcoats here, and then crack on with the muskets, because I want to show you something on the muskets. What time are we on? 12:15. So yeah, I've got about 20 minutes to go. Right, I'm going to do this guy. I'm going to leave this chap. I'm going to leave the end guy. I'm going to give him either a blue or a brown coat. He is an elite company guy, as you can see by his epaulets there. So he's going to be one of the ones I do a different colour. I've got 3 sprues of French left. So I'm going to do 1 sprue entirely in brown and 2 sprues in blue, or maybe the other way around, or maybe split that 3rd sprue and do half and half. I haven't quite decided yet. But I was meaning to leave myself 4, but because I just got into the rhythm, I just grabbed the next one, and suddenly I'm down to 3 extras. But that's fine. You know, I'm not too concerned about that. I have a soft spot for alternative armies, flintlock miniatures, and I've been painting the light infantry as 3rd Foot Regiment. Yeah, I've seen some flintlock miniatures. They look quite interesting, actually. I like the idea of the Brits as orcs and the French as like elves. I think they are, aren't they? Or the undead. Or the elves that raise the undead or something. And there's Prussians as well. No, they look quite fun, actually. I do quite like the look of them. I read a book. I can't remember who it was by. It was by a guy, like a local author. And it was a guy who, he fought the Battle of Waterloo. And at the end of the battle, he found, like, there was a society of vampires. So he ended up, like, battling them. I'd like to say it was really good, but it wasn't. It was terrible. But if you're listening, sorry, it was not good. But the premise was absolutely awesome. I also read a Black Library book. So that's the company that published all the Games Workshop novels. And they used to publish non-Games Workshop novels. And they did one called Fiends of the Eastern Front. And that was about a Romanian SS unit that were officered by vampires. Again, awesome premise. Absolutely shocking at the end, though. Really was. Really did stick the landing. Terrible, terrible. They did a sequel called. They did 2 more as well, which were not great. And they did a sequel called Fiends of the Rising Sun, which was about some Japanese vampires, which was probably better than the Fiends of the Eastern Front one, to be honest. As we go back to me being a weeb again, aren't we? But no, that wasn't bad actually, because it was mostly set on Hawaii in the before Pearl Harbor, so that was quite an interesting book actually. Random question. How many figures do you use for skirmish units? I found your start collecting guys brilliant so far. Well, thank you, Richard. I changed my approach recently to having about half of my figures based for individually skirmishers, and about half of them based for still in line. Now that said, if it's a sorry, I'm just trying to get the paint off this brush. If it's a battalion that would have been, or a unit that would have been completely skirmishing, like for argument's sake 95th, then it depends on the size of the unit. For 95th, it's normally a company. So you're looking 4 to 6 models, possibly 8, but usually 4 to 6. If it's a battalion, well, you're looking around 24 models there. So I would tend to do 12 skirmishers and 12 formed. Or, if it's a big battalion, if it's like an Austrian Grenzers, then it'd be 24 and 24. So that's probably what I would go with there. So we have 2 large tournaments in my area, but for some reason no 40k either. Oh, right, okay, that's interesting, Charles. What tournaments are going on there? What game systems? I'd be interested to hear that. Forager is a good skirmish opponent again. Well, that's good to know, David, because like I said, I don't really hear much about it. So no, that's cool. Can you convert rifles into Hanoverian Jaegers? I have absolutely no idea what Hanoverian Jaegers look like, to be honest, Richard. In fact, I did not even know they existed. But I shall definitely have a look when I get my rifles. On metal. Oh, right, on metal miniatures, you were talking about the contrast. Can you use contrast paints on metal miniatures? You absolutely can. In fact, I'm glad I brought this box up with me today, actually. So these artillerymen, let's get it into the center of the screen. These are metals. This is a Perry howitzer, and those guys are using the contrasts over them. Now, as you can see, it's perhaps not quite as good as it is over the plastics. I'm not going to lie, it shines through a little bit too much. There's a hair in him. It shines through a little bit too much. It's better on plastics than it is on metals. It's better on resins than it is on metals as well, actually. But yes, you can use it on metals. Just don't expect as good results. What I might recommend is that you go for the usual or the classic layer and wash over metal. Whereas for the plastics, you can probably just go straight with contrasts. But that said, the contrasts are obviously a lot quicker as well. So it depends on what your focus is. It depends on whether you want to be quick or not. I'll tell you what I'm going to do, actually, is because you asked that question, I'm going to... Where was that? I had a spare guy who I didn't do, didn't I? He was on the first sprue, I think. Let's get him out. Yeah, there he is. So I'm going to do him dark blue. Let's quickly smash out his greatcoat. And the reason I'm doing him dark blue is so we can directly compare him to that artilleryman. As you can see, I'm going quite heavy on there, but I'll use that to spread out with. This is Leviathan blue I'm using here, and it's absolutely gorgeous. I love it. It's a really nice indigo. I found as well, Talasar blue, this one here. I'm doing a classic high elf army. So when I first got into Warhammer in the 90s, I've basically collected a load of miniatures from that era. I'm using Talasar blue, and I used to have a paint called Lightning Bolt blue, which was a very iridescent blue. It was beautiful colour, and I stopped doing it for a long time. But that Talasar blue gives you the same effect. So all the spot colours on my high elves I'm doing with that Talasar blue. I could not be more happy with them. But this Leviathan blue is lovely. So I'm just slapping this on. Now, actually, on this figure here, his cuff does peek out from his greatcoat. So there's a little bit of extra detail there. Now, I have not painted that bit of cuff on any of my models. And that's where I'm talking about speed. That's something that I'm sacrificing for speed. Now, a little bit of red poking out in the centre of his body. I've gone over that strap there, never mind. A little bit of red poking out there could be really nice. It could really draw your attention to the figure. But unfortunately, that is being sacrificed on the altar of speed. Another thing with the contrasts as well is you can't do like half the model and then come back and do the other half later, because you will get a tide mark if you do that. So it's much better to do the whole model in one go, so you can blend in the two halves that you do. Sorry, I was just getting a thing saying my phone needed plugging in. So I'm using to record this on. I need to get a GoPro. That's the next big purchase for the channel. I need to stop buying Polish infantry, don't I? Instead, start getting another camera for the channel. I'm not sure. Can you stream directly from a GoPro? I imagine you can. Right, so there we go. So using the let me just wash the brush out. Looking at the contrast paints here, now it is worth pointing out that it is still wet, so you get a bit of a darker effect when it's still wet. So it's not going to be an exact comparison, but if you look at the coverage difference between, say, this guy here, let's get him in focus. The coverage difference between him, you can see that he's quite light, and you can still almost see the metal through him. So if you look at the difference between him and this guy here, you'll see that it does cover a lot better on the plastics than it does on the metal. So you can use contrast on metal, but I would be tempted to, if possible, not. I can't really make it any more diplomatic than that. You can do, but I would suggest that you might want to think how important it is that you get a good effect. Now for the brown for the muskets, I'm going to go with this one here, and that's Gore-Grunter Fir. Now the reason I want to show you this is because this is another thing with contrasts as well, is it's very much about, if you're looking at speed, and that's why you're using contrast paints after all, it's about the order you do things. So we spray these guys white. I've done all the straps first. I've now done the greatcoats. I'm now going to bust out the muskets. So you see I'm not quite putting so much on this time. I'm actually getting rid of a lot of the excess. And I'm just going to go along the side of the musket here, like so. This is going to pick out those bands that hold the musket together. Now this side's a little bit more tricky because this is where the strap is. But the reason we're doing the brown before we do the metal is because I'll show you why in a second. So there we go. What I really like about this is this Gore-Grunter Fir in particular is on the white. Let me see if you can get that in focus. Sort of. You get a really nice warm brown. It looks like it's polished wood, and I really like that. So now the reason why you do it before you do the metal is this part here. Use the flat of your brush and just pull it down like this to make sure the paint gets in the gap between the metal barrel and the wooden stock, because then you're going to end up with a really nice crisp straight line that's going to really make that musket pop. So this side's probably better for it actually. Here at the top you can see there, let's get that up to the camera and in the light. Where are we? This way. Nope, that way. You can see how nice and straight that line between the end of the rung and the rung next to his body is. I haven't done the middle rung yet, so let's get that done. And then you can see you get that really nice, where are we? There we are. You get that really nice, come on camera, you can do it. Sort of. You get a nice straight line there, and then when it comes to doing the metal, you just run the metal along the top, and that gets you, you've got your shading in there, you've got your nice warm polished brown. That is really nice. The muskets were always one of the parts of the model I hated painting. Really hated painting muskets. I don't really know why, but they were always the bit I really didn't like doing. With the contrasts, a lot of people don't like horses. Again, I can fully understand why people don't like painting horses. But with the contrast, it makes it so much easier. I'm going to bang that on there. That wicker basket, I could do the same time, but I'm not going to. I'm going to do that with a different brown. Zvezda in Russian means star. All right, okay, well that makes sense because their symbol is a star, isn't it? So I did not know that, though. So, okay, that's interesting to know. It's bad form to criticise someone's painting. I mean, it is if you're just going to be a dick about it. If people ask for criticism, then I have no problem with that. If someone puts themselves out there, like I am here, I've got no problem with that either. I mean, you know, people will say my figures aren't the best painted, and they're not. I mean, me and my brother have disagreements about this. My brother is a very, very good painter, but he'll paint a figure's face and then get bored and move on to something else. Whereas I'm like, well, that's all well and good, but I've got 560 guys to paint, so I can't get bored after painting one figure's face. So that's just a different approach to painting that we have. It's a different hobby that we have, really. So yeah, so if someone wants criticism, if they ask for it or they put themselves out there, then I think that's fair enough, as long as you're respectful and constructive with your criticism, then I think that's fine. But overall, you know, people just liking to do it to feel superior. As I say, I don't think it happens as often as we might think, but when it does happen, yeah, it's completely unacceptable. I absolutely agree. Click like button, 51 guys. Thank you, Robin. You are, as always, remain the top supporter of this channel, so thank you very much. I uploaded a video a while ago, I can't remember which one it was, and I'd not put the card at the end thanking the members, and I'd uploaded it and it was all good to go. It probably taken me about 2 hours to export it and upload it and stuff like that, and I thought, I was like, well, I know it's fine, I'll add it later. And I was like, no, people like you, Robin, you keep the channel going, so you deserve that I do that. So I went back and I re-uploaded it. So I'm not asking for thanks. If nothing, in fact, the exact opposite. I'm thanking you and saying I should have done it the first time, because that's how much those contributions mean to me and the channel. So thank you very much. Andreas, we're talking about nonsensical ideas. I was quite tempted to do one-to-one British battalion. I think I refrained, but the very idea. Yeah, no, I was thinking of doing a one-to-one French battalion, actually. I did see someone post on Facebook recently. Someone had done one. And it was good for me, because I keep banging on about when we do attack column, we do it normally 6 by 6. So it's normally like a square, 6 wide, 6 deep. Now, that's because an attack column was 2 companies wide. So if company's base is 6 figures, then, you know, 2 bases wide gives you 2 bases of 3 figures in 2 ranks gives you 6 wide, and that gives you 6 deep. So that's fair enough. But an attack column was far wider than it was deep, and that's what this 1-to-1 scale battalion showed. So I think really that a battalion in attack column, if you're using 36 figures, should probably be 4 ranks of 9 if you're going to base them in bases of 6 like I do. So that said, all my movement trays are cut for for 6 wide, 6 deep. So I might just stick with that, because that's what my movement trays are. Now you can also use Gunter Brown for the backpacks as well. I am going to. I was a little unsure whether I was going to or not. I was thinking I might use Wildwood, which is a much flatter brown. Probably would be better. But the vast majority of my army, I've used Mornfang Brown base paint and then washed it with Agrax Earthshade. And that gives a colour similar to this one. So just to keep my army consistent, I'm going to use Grunter on the packs as well. Despite I try not to use organic and inorganic materials the same colour. Now, obviously, I know these are both organic, but you know what I mean. One's hard, polished wood. One's soft, cured cowhide. But in this case, I'm going to make an exception, because you're unlikely to see the both at the same time, because on the front you've obviously got the metal of the musket, you can't see the backpack, and at the back you've got the sling, which covers up most of the back of the musket as well. So I don't mind it so much on this one, as they're not going to be next to each other. And there, I love the fact that he's got a string of onions hanging off his backpack. I hate painting them, because it's like, I've got to get the bloody onion paint out just to do like 10 sets of onions or whatever. It's really annoying. But once you've done it and you guys are marching down the battlefield with his string of onions coming out of his backpack, I always think that's a good one. I would like to see more figures from Napoleon in Egypt. The French are not so hard to find, but the Ottomans are a lot more difficult. Yes, they are, David. Yes, they are. I mentioned this earlier on, and I'm dropping the hint bombs now. Stay tuned in October, because there may be some content about that. That's a exclusive to anyone who asks. It's like the worst kept secret ever. It's like the assault at the Battle of the Somme, like the newspapers were writing about it the week before. So possibly since then, this is the worst kept secret. Romeo, click the like button. Yeah, click the like button, guys. Nah, I'm not joking. Romeo never said that, but thank you very much. Talking about, I said that. I said Leipzig is the greatest game. Waterloo is more like putting down a sick dog, in my opinion, at least. Waterloo is very, very popular. Waterloo will always be very popular. I guess it's like the final, like, the last roll of the dice for Napoleon. It does frustrate me how much Waterloo does cast a shadow over the rest of the Napoleonic Wars. So that's one of the big problems I'm having with the Brunswicker video, is all the sources that mention Brunswick, you flip to them and they're talking about Brunswick at Waterloo. So their peninsular service, which to be admittedly wasn't exactly stellar, does get overshadowed a lot by their Waterloo appearances. The same with the Prussians as well, actually. I found that doing stuff for the Prussians was actually quite hard. And then when it got to doing the Battle of Ligny, it was ridiculous, the amount of sources and things that were out there. So, yes. So that's the muskets done. That's the backpacks done. What are we on? We're on 12:30. I'm going to have a very quick trawl through the comments I've not addressed yet. I think we're done for painting for the day. Let me see what the comments are. For War of 1812, Two Fat Lardy's campaign guide is very good. It is for sharp practice, but still worth a read. That's a great shout, David. I shall check that out. Thank you for that, buddy. The 13mm scale, or Epic, is a nice scale for 3D printing. I thought Epic was 8mm. To expect a few enterprising people producing some stuff for it, Marlboring would be nice. Is that Marlborough? Thank you, Storm of Steel. I'm just about to head off, though, I'm afraid. This is becoming my favourite live stream. Well, thank you, Deep Red. Thank you. If I were you, I would clip off that central T-shaped sprue. It'll help you get around the figures a bit easier. Yeah, this one here, it would. The reason it's on is because I just throw them all back in the box afterwards, is to protect the muskets more than anything else. Fiends of the Eastern Front was in 2000 AD originally. Oh, right, okay, I didn't know that. Give Mon Dieu Cthulhu a read. I've not heard of that one. I definitely will do, though. I tend to agree with that. The contrast has made it much easier to get to tabletop standard with minimum fuss. Going back to painting traditionally can be a challenge, especially for damn these dark elves. Yeah. Well, you wanted dark elves, Dan, so, you crack on with them, son. Interested to see the muskets. I use scale 75 ink intensity chestnut ink on mine, then Agrex over that. All right, okay. You can also find them really quick. Also, a small square masking tape over the hole in the back area. Yeah, I could do that. That is the sensible approach, but that's prep time, and I just hate doing prep time. We had Malifaux, Ancients, Napoleonic, American Civil War, World War II, Naval Battle, Star Wars. All right, blimey, okay. Is that the tournament events that you were saying is in the area? Sorry, let me just scroll back up. Yeah, no, well, that's fantastic, Charles. That's a good, that's a really good range of tournaments you've had there. That's fantastic. What rules were they using for the Napoleonics, incidentally? Dan Gray using contrast on your Dark Elves. You were posting pics. Yeah, get him up, Dan. Get him up on somewhere. I'm sure it'll be on Champions Destiny or something. The Iron Leopard looking good. I want to say hi before school. Love the stream so far. Thank you, Iron Leopard. It's nice to see you, my friend. Perhaps if you fail a move order for the cannons, you can still make a move with the wheelwrights. Yeah, that could be good. Yeah. Or you only get one move, they can move twice. Yeah, that's not a bad shout, actually. I hate painting muskets boring. Yes, I'm glad it's not just me, Louis. Hello, Luke. Is there a flesh contrast? Yes, there is, Andrew. There is. I'm going to show you. I've got two. There's Gulliman Flesh, and he said not being able to find the other one. There is another one. I think it's Dark Oath Flesh, the other one. Yeah, there are, Dark Oath Flesh. So those are the two fleshes that I've got. I think there's another one as well. This I use for more Mediterranean type troops. So Italians would be great for Dark Oath. Gulliman is a little bit more sort of Northern European. I use that a lot for the French or whatever. Again, an example of that in action would be these chasseurs. Let me move that out of the way. So this is just Gulliman Flesh. Now, one thing that I would say, though, is if you look, they are a bit pale. They don't look as pale as that in real life. They certainly do on stream. So I always, with my flesh, though, re-undercoat them either if you use Wraithbone, then that's fine. Or if you've used Corax like I have, you need to re-undercoat them with bone. Otherwise, they will look like they're dead. Now, I've got some casualties, and I've used that technique on them, and they look great. But yeah, you do definitely need to re-undercoat them. You could try using 2mm if you want to cheat 1-to-1. Yeah, but you know that's cheating, isn't it? If you're gonna do it, you gotta do it 28mm. I'd love to do it 40mm, but yeah. Do I use all the same colour for all the great coats? No, I don't, Sir Wombatnat. I've got a couple of sprues here that are completely unpainted. I'm gonna do those blue and brown, those ones. Paint that on, you know. I might do a whole video stream just on painting onions. Good point on the muskets and good points on the musket himself. Yeah, absolutely. You're planning to Oathmark. I'm tempted to buy Oathmark. I've looked at the figures. They do look quite nice, actually. Their dwarves look quite nice. Also, Fire Slayer threat. Right, okay, yeah, it's fair enough. I thought there was another one. That's the darkest one. Currently Johnny Reb, but we are moving back to Black Powder for our next tournament. Oh, right, okay. The guy who loved Johnny Reb is sacked from the committee. No, that's how it goes, definitely. I am too, David, but I'm not really a fantasy gamer ever. No, well, that's fair enough. Well, I'm afraid, chaps, I'm going to have to knock it on the head there because my guts will be garters if I'm not gone by 1 o'clock. But thank you very much for tuning in today. I don't know why we're ending on a shot of the chasseurs. We've got all these guys done. We've got these guys done as well. So what we got? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, because there's 2 more there, and then we've got 9. So we've got 9 sprues of infantry done. That's not bad. Over the rest of the week, I'm planning on getting all the muskets done. All the muskets done, all the boots done, and hopefully the cross straps on these, in addition to touching up any of the cross straps that I've missed on here. The key to speed, I find, is making sure that you do it in the right order. And when I've done it in the wrong order, then I tend to lose speed and it takes longer than it should. But hopefully we're getting there. So I'll do all the boots, the Shako covers, the cartridge pouches, and the packs when I get to doing the black. And then we can get on with these. As you can see, the red is really showing through the Corax white here. So I'm not sure how good that's going to be. I might have to re-undercoat that. But thank you very much for watching, guys. This Wednesday, I'm going to try and get another video out. It may end up being a clip from yesterday's video where I do the Waterloo unboxing, but I am going to try and get a video out. As a sneak peek, super sneak peek, if it's a Maxi Minis picture video, then I've got these guys here. Now, these aren't perfect, but they're all right. These are Lancers using the Perry Chasseur box. As I say, not amazing, but I think they get the job done. But thank you very much, chaps. I will see you next time. It's been awesome hanging out. And we've got another bank holiday this month. So if I don't see you guys before then, I will see you again. Cheers, guys. Bye.